So I have a few questions. The first is, and I'd like for you to raise your hand if you agree with this policy. The first is, do you approve of family separation as a policy? If so, raise your hand. Let the record reflect that no one approves. If you approve of holding children in cages, raise your hand. Let the record reflect that no one approves. If you approve of defunding aid to the countries that migrants are fleeing, raise your hand. Let the record reflect that no one approves. There was something called wet foot, dry foot. Some of you may be familiar with wet foot, dry foot. If you're familiar with what was called the wet foot, dry foot policy as it related to Cubans, would you raise your hand, please? All of the members, let the record reflect, are familiar with wet foot, dry foot. Wet foot, dry foot required that a person immigrating from Cuba get 1 foot on dry land. And with 1 foot on dry land, you could walk right on into Florida usually, and you would be on a pathway to citizenship with 1 foot on dry land. I'm not saying that we have to have a wet foot, dry foot policy, but I do believe that we have to have a humane policy that respects children, that does not harm children. This is what Save the Children is all about.
Oh man, shut your anorexic, malnutrition, tapeworm having, overdose Dick Gregory Bahamian diet drinking ass up. Leave me alone.
And I would just simply ask Mr. Let me make sure that I have your name correct, sir. Mr. Holman, sir. What type of policy do you envision that will help children who are fleeing harm's way with their parents usually or some significant person in their lives have the opportunity to be in a safe, secure, wholesome environment?
Well, first of all, your question about raising your hands, if you would have said if I support zero tolerance, I would have raised my hand. Not family separation, zero tolerance. You seem to confuse those two issues.
Okay, well, if you would, I'm going to ask that you kindly address my question, but since you raised zero tolerance, I'm not sure what you mean by zero tolerance. Are you saying zero tolerance, no one ever coming to the United States? Is that your zero tolerance policy?
No, you're referring to family separations that have happened under numerous presidents, not just this president.
So,
but zero tolerance, what you're referring to is family separations, zero tolerance that was put in place by Attorney General Jeff Sessions. It was zero tolerance to prosecute those who knowingly, intentionally violate our laws.
So, and supporting that policy, you would support family separation then?
Whenever someone gets arrested for a crime, they get booked into a jail, their child can't go with them. Just like if I got arrested tonight, my child couldn't go with me. So it's not about family separation.
Well, the interesting thing about your argument is that these people committed no crimes.
You enter the United States illegally, it's a crime. It's 8 U.S.C.
No,
8 United States Code 1325. It's a crime to enter the United States illegally.
It is not a crime. It's a civil offense.
No, sir, it is not. It's a violation of Criminal Code Title 8 United States Code 1325, illegal entry in the United States. First offense is a misdemeanor, second offense, if you've been ordered, removed, and returned, is a felony.
I agree with that. I don't differ with you on that point. But you would then separate the children.
You have no option. If someone's being prosecuted and gets sent to U.S. Marshal's custody or to the local jail, the child can't go with them. That happens to U.S. families every day across the country.
All right, let's have Mr. Knowles' response, please.
What would you like me to answer, sir?
The separation of children based upon policy that was in place.
You're asking a few of our members?
Yes.
I believe I said earlier that our members are trained asylum officers. We're not law enforcement, but we believe that our mandate is to ensure that asylum seekers have due process and are treated humanely during the pendency of their claims. And it is well known in the law and in the international conventions that an asylum seeker has the right to due process regardless of their manner of entry. And we do not believe that it is correct to separate families or to prosecute individuals who are seeking asylum. They ought to have their asylum cases heard. And if they prevail, they should be allowed to remain. If they don't prevail, then there are legal processes for their removal. But we don't support the separation of families under any circumstances.
Is there anyone else who would like to respond, please?
There's no, I'm
May I-
sorry. I'm sorry. We have 3 other people. I'm so sorry.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.